All right, we have a 2009 Kia Rio that our customer here took to two places about a year ago, and the last place lost these bolts, left a compression tool down in a cylinder, couldn't get it out, and he hasn't heard from him since. He was asked to order $400 or $500 worth of parts online, which he did, and he can't return now. So we came to do our diagnosis and removed the stuck compression tester. Customer tried to inform us of what they said, and I said, stop there, don't tell me. I'll listen after I do my diagnosis. So here we are. The first shop changed one coil. Misfire supposedly moved, so they said he has a bad engine. Engine's no good. We came, swapped coils, misfire moved, only one cylinder. He had a coil. We don't let customers supply parts, but he already had them. He can't return them. Obviously, there's no warranty, but he has 4 spares if and when this fails. We have spare bolts to put in here where the last guy left, and here. After that, the misfire was gone, but it was lacking power. It felt like a clogged cat. We removed the O2 sensor. With it removed, it has power again. So the next step is to remove it. We're going to smoke test it, verify that it's clogged, make sure that the rear catalytic converter is not clogged, and replace it. We have the lower bolts removed. We can remove the upper bolts. Some of the studs may stay in. I never have matching gloves. I get these from Lowe's. 6 gloves or 3 pairs for 10 bucks. So I buy them in bulk. I'll buy like out the whole store. I'll buy like 10 packs. And I can never find the matching pair, so I'm always wearing different colored gloves. Oh, I'm gonna have to get down with a ratchet on these too. We'll have it removed in a second and show you the test results. I'll spare the boring part. We got the heat shield off. I'm gonna climb underneath. WD-40 is not the solution here. We're always gonna put heat to these, always. So we visually inspect for any kind of wiring, anything that can melt. There's nothing around this but the oil pan. So we're good to heat. And it's, go ahead and heat the nut side. We're gonna do a little more than that, and then we can crack the bolt loose. Also to note, the customer stated he smelled a burning smell one of the last times he drove. And up here is our catalytic converter. And right there, that's a sign that we have a clogged up catalytic converter. It got so hot that it melted the plastic, 8 inches away. Now that we have the catalytic converter out, we can see these pieces just break right off. And there's a ton missing, and it's probably in the rear cat. So we had to get to the rear cat and check it, because it's all broken apart and there's big chunks missing. So our next step is to remove these 2 bolts and take a peek in the front of this rear catalytic converter. There's just a few chunks, we can get them out, and that should save them some money. And with the rear cat dropped, this is what came from the front cat. And probably clogged it up. There's much more in there, I'm sure. We'll have to get out, and then this should be good to go once we install the new front cat. For this Kia, first time videotaping, I accidentally erased the install of the converters. So after the install and cleaning out the back converter, install went fine, parts marked lined up just fine, everything worked out great. We took it for a test drive. Fuel trims, short term and long term, were -25 on the long term, which was a saved long term. Even after doing a reset with the scan tool, it still had a negative fuel trim, so that just wasn't erasable. Maybe disconnecting the battery might have wiped it, but so we took it for test drive, about 2-3 miles. Short term was +25, making up for the long term. If you don't know, the fuel trim is the exhaust reading air fuel coming out of the exhaust and then making adjustments to meet that stoichiometric ratio of air to fuel to burn properly, get you a good gas mileage, meet emissions, etc. As we drove, long term creeped from negative, started going up, 20, 15. By the time we got to the end of a 3-mile run, fuel trims were at long-term 4, 0 to 5, plus or minus is fine. It would have gotten better if we'd driven it longer. Short-term was -4, compensating. You do the math on the 2, and that's the actual current, which equals 0. Perfect. Customer was absolutely ecstatic. He hadn't had this car in over a year. The reason being, he took it to a major chain first. When I first got there, I said, do not tell me what somebody else diagnosed. Just stop. And sometimes I'm rude when I do it. Versus saying, please, just shh. I'm like, stop. Because it leads me down a rabbit hole. I think about what they say, and I take it in context, even though it's normally wrong. So in this case, I told him, please don't. He already told me. I said, let's just not talk about it. So the first shop essentially told him, gave him a coil, used the right coil, fixed one misfire, but there was another one. And they said, nope, you need an engine. Here's a $3,500 bill. They didn't replace it. Customer declined the repair. Second person was a mobile mechanic. He came out. I guess he did a compression check. He put a brand new compression tool down in that cylinder. He got it stuck. The removal process is easy. A lot of people, once you get stuck, they're like, oh, I don't know what to do. You take the adapters with the hose, you put a little super glue on it. You're going to ruin that tool, or just make it a permanent tool with that adapter on it. You thread it down in there, let it set up, and you pull it out. So we got that out. There still was a misfire in that cylinder. We swapped coils. It's easy to do on this. You don't need a scope to read amps, the spark line, or anything like that. We swapped coils. The misfire moved. Customer had a coil. We put the coil in for the time being while we continued diagnosing. Took it for a test drive. That's when we discovered the catalytic converter was clogged up. We had no power. The intake was completely loud. You had to floor it to go anywhere. And so 2 shops misdiagnosed this car, and the guy didn't have it for years, so he absolutely went bonkers when his car was back up and running. With an easy diagnosis. The diagnostics took 10, 15 minutes, and it went to one shop and one mobile mechanic for them to both say he needed a new engine. So watch where you take your vehicles. There should be no, let's try this, I think this is it. There should be proof. You should have the tooling to diagnose it correctly. If you don't, you can just say, I don't know. I'm not afraid to say I don't know, or I don't have something, or let me sit on it, but I'm willing to do the research to figure it out, get the information, the facts, and find out what needs to be done. So watch where you take your cars, and like and subscribe.